Now we will have a technical session on trends and regional pattern of urbanization. We are fortunate to have Dr. Amitabh Kundu with us today. Dr. Amitabh Kundu, former professor of economics at the Center for the Study of Regional Development and a member of National Statistical Commission. Currently, he is in the editorial board of Manpower Journal, Urban India, Journal of Educational Planning and Administration, and Indian Journal of Labor Economics. Now, I request Dr. Amitabh Kundu to chair the session and introduce the speakers and to begin the session.
Thank you, Anupama. After joining everyone in complimenting and thanking Dr. Jayashree Ravindran, I remember what Professor T.S. Popola, unfortunately is no longer with us, what he did in a situation like this. He wanted to stop a speaker who is very eminent, internationally known, and he didn't know how to do it, and he always could cut a joke at his own cost. He said, friends, if I'm not known for a great academics, let me establish my reputation as a great chairperson. So I would like to do that today. Since I have not gone through the papers, the presentations, I would follow this sequence which has been given by the organizing committee. May I request Professor Sharid Bhaumik, who is the adjunct faculty, the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Contemporary Studies, University of Mumbai. In fact, I could add on at least for another 3-4 minutes, but that will be cut from your time, so better I give you the time.
So when you talk to if he's going to say so much about me, then the other problem is that one has to keep up to that. So it's better that one says less, so that I'm able to keep it. Anyway, since it's 10 minutes, I just want to give the points which I was talking about is on urban political economy of urban space. My whole idea was to discuss this whole issue. I've taken Mumbai as a center because that's my city. I've done a lot of work on it, not just on Mumbai. I've also worked on other cities, but and I'm a sociologist, so I don't look at number crunching is not my this thing, though I believe it's important. But anyway, so because I thought apart from this, Mumbai is an interesting study because I don't think any city in India or maybe in the world has, the contrasts are so much there as it is in this city. As you're saying that slums were 25%. The Bombay, the recent development plan which was released, the figures which were given, it shows that in Mumbai it is 42% of the population live in slums. The other figure of the Maharashtra government, this Bureau of Economics and Statistics, which released this data a few years ago, it says that 72% of the households in the city live in one room, 18% in 2 rooms, and the remaining have more than 2 rooms, which includes, say, on one room is one side, 72%. On the other hand, you have 400 rooms of Mr. Ambani, who want to declare this as a specially SEZ, his housing thing. But anyway, that is a part of it. So it's also the commercial hub and the rich city, everything is there. But the question is now is on this whole lot, of the slums and how, I'm not talking about slums because there's another session on that, on migration, but the entire infrastructure, if you look at Mumbai, it's all geared towards that 8% or 9% and not to the majority of the population. Because you find that, it might be true in other cities, but in this case, like for instance, the appalling figure which the municipality itself admits in its development plan, that only the slums have only 2% of the piped sewerage system is in the slums, which occupy 42%. And incidentally, slums constitute less than 10% of the land surface of the city. So you have 42%. If it is so, others are saying even the municipality has admitted is 48% actually. The census data says 42, but it's 48, and it is in 10% of the city's area, and yet they are supposed to cause all the problems. I think that is the main issue which I want to raise here is just the point which before I summarize with the main crux is that you see the whole question of having such a large slum population, having people who are, let's say, in the informal economy and working in this way, it's also a part of this threat of the lobbies in the city to keep the poor in check, to make them appear as encroachers. See, this whole issue of public space, as Harvey and others have discussed it, this whole issue of common public space, where there's street vendors, there are about 200,000 or more, 2.5% they say. So it should be around 300,000 street vendors. Their law says that they are there, the court says, but then they are taken as encroachers on public space. Slums are encroachers on public space. So all this is, the part of it is that the urban poor are made to feel that, humiliated, that they are encroachers, they are parasites, and thereby they cannot lift up their head and protest about it. Of course, the other racket about the slums is that they go there, they develop the area, and after 10 years, 15 years, the slum is demolished and given over to the builders. So which also saves them the money of flattening the land and doing all these things, because they do, the slum dwellers do that. And then again, the rehabilitation part also comes in, where they are given flats and all, the recognized slums. But the fact is that a lot of slums are not even there. Recently, I think a few days ago, there was a big thing in at least in Mumbai, that about the slum having about 8,000 households was raised overnight. There was some fire. And the municipality immediately said that, they steal gas and all that. That's why it happened. Fire brigade said that's not the case. It was a man-made fire. Possibly a builder had done it. So these people have been dishoused, and now you find that you can't give them compensation because the slum development, the office says that they are not listed. We didn't know that such a slum existed. So if that happens, then this is this is the entire thing of urban politics in cities, and I think it's just not in Mumbai. It's in all others, in most cities like that. But Mumbai, I think it becomes a bit more intense, and this whole issue. So I think it's not so much the slum, but this whole issue of access to public space. This whole thing of trying to. You can see that in Delhi. It happens. You have the gated communities in Delhi. It is something which is maintained by the municipality, by the authorities, the roads and all inside, but they gate it off and they don't allow outsiders to come there. So it's, they just take over these areas. In Mumbai, it may not be to that extent, but because you don't have such, you do have such colonies, but land is a very important thing. So it is, but there is encroachment from the other side. But that is taken as something which, it's very, very clear, because the municipal corporation, when the High Court asked this, that why do shops keep entering on the pavements to display their ware, this fellow said, the municipal authority, that person who was representing, he says, no, it's okay, it's a part of the aesthetic culture of Mumbai. Whereas if hawkers do it, then that is encroachment. So I think this is the whole issue which I'm trying to say. And I don't know, within this thing, you can have anything. As he said, smart cities and all may look good, is ideal. But unless we unless these issues are taken up, I don't know who would take it, but unless the urban poor are able to articulate their problems and decide what they want, I don't think the situation will change to some extent. It is true, it is happening, because the development plan in Mumbai, when it came up, it has become a massive uproar has been there, and especially NGOs and people who are from the slums and others, they have protested, and the government was forced to change the DP, and the new plan for this goes up to 1935, I think 1934, the plan, they had to change it. So I think this is the main issue which I tried to raise. So I feel that when we are talking about urban problems, of course, there are other things which I think the chair and I may not have, is De Soto's thing of how to, he talked in terms of giving rights to slum dwellers, and that may not. But it may or may not work out. It didn't work out in his own country, De Soto's country in Peru, because banks were not willing to give loans. But in India, I know in the case of street vendors, if they are legalized, we've had a study on that, banks are willing to give them loans and that may improve their conditions, because the loan rate in most places is between 30%, about 35% to 300%. That's how it fluctuates, from usurers and all that these people get. So I think, in some form of formality is necessary. Upgrading of slums are more important because they can because slums become a problem, so-called problem, because they don't have the basic facilities. If 2% of your sewerage facilities are in slums, which are housing 48% of the population, then you can imagine what happens. Even solid waste management, Mumbai is not able to cope up. I think only 60% of the waste is collected. That's what this document shows. So I don't know how much will be collected from the slums. So all that put together, so this whole idea, but my own feeling, the problem which I'm trying to put forward is that it is not by accident that the the urban poor come and occupy slums. They do it for their own reason. They do it because it's close to their place of work. So they have their own housing. They make their own house. They don't spend on housing. They choose. I mean, people just don't find a free space and they put up houses there. It's also because it's close to their place of work. Construction workers, maids, domestic workers, and all that. So they cut down on the housing. They cut down on the transport because they don't have to go long distances. And you have others like street vendors and all giving them cheaper variety of food, clothes and all that. All this put together makes it possible for them. It is possible for them to give their labor at cheap rates. But yet the people who buy the labor power are the ones who protest about them, saying that they're a problem for the city. So I think one has to look at the contributions of the urban poor and the whole city and how it helps the development of the city. So I think, this is the point which I was trying to raise, and I have taken Mumbai as a case because Mumbai is a place where you can see these things, and it's openly done that these people are parasites. I don't think in other places people can say that so openly, but in Mumbai the papers and even others, they try to show that these people are encroachers. Someone also very happily said this is slum bay. One of these ad agency fellows, one of those high-profile people in the advertising world, he said, this is not Mumbai, it's slum bay. Which is true, if 48% of your population lives in slums. But what are you going to do? But that's not what he meant. He said, throw these people out. Then where will they go? Where will the rich, how will they survive? That's, I think, a problem. It's not just a question of the poor being there, but also the question of how much the poor contribute to the development of the cities in terms of your GDP and other things, and which is not being taken care of. Home-based workers, self-employed, and all these people, the type of things they do, the contributions they make to the city, this is something which is not taken off. Not only is not taken account of, but they are made to feel humiliated so that their backs are broken. I think that is the whole idea of this whole thing in a class-based society that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bhaumik. In fact, your sense of discipline with regard to the time is very impressive, and I'm also happy that when you talk about slum development, you combine the sense of discipline with the sense of inclusiveness. Professor Chaube would be the next speaker. He is Professor of Economics at the Indian Institute of Public Administration. You may not take the chairman's decision of 10 minutes very strictly. You can violate it by 1 or 1.5 minutes.
So, thank you. With this small index which I am going to make presentation on, it's around 20 years ago when I published it for the first time in the Journal of Indian School of Political Economy. Professor Dandekar was doing it. And I got an encouraging letter from Michael Lipton. And he said, why don't you try FGT index? Because at that time I was working in the area of poverty. And one of my students was working in the area of urbanization on PhD. And Professor Kundu happened to be one of the examiners. So I was not happy what was done in the thesis, but later on I continued and came up with some idea. So here, as in the very first Professor Tarlok Singh, Dr. Tarlok Singh lectures, Professor Radhakrishna had given an idea of Amar Sen, the welfare content of income distribution. When you can see it, I just translated that say what you call GDP by population, something of this which I call per capita urbanization, that urban population divided by total population. And if you just see that way, then you might get this kind of content. And I tried certain axioms whereby I could come with such a simple measure of urbanization which takes care of distribution and which takes care of the level. Level we want to increase, the distribution we don't want. The population should, accretion should take place towards metropolitan centers. By that time I had not read something which Professor Kundu did 30 years ago, Gibbs did 50 years ago. In between, Arriga did something. So later on I wrote other papers and I came to this idea. Now some of this RGI also tried have some kind of a harmonic mean and some reciprocal population and so on in one of the papers. And Ramchandran did took some variables and aggregated something like your HDI. Rukmani also did very similar. They are geographers. I didn't concentrate much on that. Now, these are some of the attempts which have been considered here. Some are the earlier ones made by geographers have not been considered, but the traditional index or Kingsley Davis, E. Ariga, J.P. Gibbs, and Kundu Raza, and I am the final one. Thereafter, if some people have done work, it's not easily coming to my notice. So I'm not concentrating on that. Kingsley Davis tried to popularize urban population by rural population, but it didn't pick up. Though URGD, urban rural growth differential, actually measures or takes this in the base. The popular index we know. Now, what I have done, I have written a summation of UI. And if you write summation of UI, you easily get, this kind of index where you just multiply n here and n there. So you get to know that this is the index, and now you can generalize it. The first, the coefficient before the summation, that can be generalized. And similarly, on the other part, some weights could be arrayed. So if you change the weights, perhaps you could be getting something new. Now, I tried to generalize it and putting two, there's for weights and for the coefficient of normalization, and such that weights are equal. And if you do all this, I'm not doing a lot of it, so you will get the value of those, say Q, and you will get very similar number. But what I am repeating is that there is one N. Takayama who could see that there was some problem with the kind of normalization which Sen did. And therefore, he added something which people doing calculus, integral calculus, they know summation, that constant of integration. So he had added, he didn't give it a name, but constant of summation. So I also tried that and did some mathematics, tried again and again whether, because the result was so simple that I was myself surprised whether the result could come in. So I also asked my colleague, Professor D.K. Srivastava, and he also checked all mathematics, and then we came to know that everything is fine. So if all urban units have the same population size, the urbanization level is the same as magnitude of popular index U upon P. If they are not equal, then there is an issue on which some people have worked, and as I referred to, Gibbs, Ariga, and Professor Kundu along with Professor Raza. So now I made this weight as a function of the population size, substituted and did some mathematics, and some results I could get. So this is old frame and new index. Now then I set up the new index. The old frame and new indices, some of these results could come in, and I am not taking more time on these indices. Somewhere you find coefficient of variation is coming in, because they are coming with plus sign, which means accretion is good. So and when we make this comparison, we find that some of the accretion, they are in terms of population is absolute number, whereas mine is in relative number. So I just as see probabilities were also introduced by Professor Kundu in such terms, and Ariga by UI upon P. Gives so just some comparison I have made. Now this is what I did. I added, as you can see, I cannot see much, that there is one normalization index on this side, there is a weight to be given, and there is a constant of summation. Now to reflect division of population between rural and urban areas and distribution of population among the urban units of habitation. These are the two considerations. Here I set up growth axiom. But for the ilk of Gandhi, and I have a lot of sympathy with Gandhi, perhaps most of us want urban areas to expand, urban population to expand, but at the same time we have now become wary of how the distribution of urban population is taking place. Maybe at the time when the accretion was seen as positive, the economies of agglomeration were still had not exhausted, but they seem to have now exhausted. diseconomies seem to have set in, and therefore distribution axiom which I set up is other things remaining the same, relative distribution in favor of bigger units results in the decrease in the magnitude of urbanization. So issue was given by RGI itself in one paper, working paper or whatever you call them. So then this is all mathematics. I mean, some preliminary set. Excess population, as in the case of poverty, we say that poverty index minus something. So I set up one threshold U star, and which for empirical purposes I have taken as 5,000, making or understanding that all those statutory towns also follow these characteristics. They may not be following. For example, in 1981 census, Badrinath had hardly 1,000 population, but is what declared by government of Uttar Pradesh as urbanized. But these few free cases we may not, I mean, they may not change the results. So keeping in mind distribution axiom, let us assign larger weights to smaller excesses. So if you have order of population and then in the reverse order the weights, then you come to such a simple measure. I have just done practically everything, and you can see that even equation numbers are there. So they were just lifted from the papers which I had published, isn't it, and pasted here. So then from a standard of definition of Gini with something, and then I set up two normalization axioms as is the what you call practice in the case of poverty measurement, and with this I reach the last part, which is U upon T. This is variant. Then I also did in some other papers some variants. So you can see I cannot see with ease the last one, which is index perhaps C and U upon P multiplied by 1 minus G U. And then okay. Some of the variants are created, and one of them is very similar to what Kakwani did. So now computation easy, which has been now underplayed because people can compute with computers, so they don't mind. Case 1.